it's 5:30, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna pass on the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence tonight. Hey Stu. We've got the agenda here, we've got a couple of budget tax items we're gonna work through. And then a couple of discussion items, probably go into executive. Kind of stalling for a second on Shoemaker, that's okay, we can go into citizens communication. One thing I want to share with the directors is Lauren will be on Zoom, Tyler will be on Zoom, Sean's here. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Lauren's here. Yeah.
Sean's here. These are our experts and we pay for them to be here and we need to listen to them. And I appreciate every bit of advice that you are giving to us. I'm looking at you, Lauren, but Sean, Tyler behind me. So I'm gonna ask each director to pay attention when they're talking. Let's not be on our phones or on our computers. This is really our priority. Setting our tax rate and getting a budget that looks within our tax rate. And if you think there's any other priority, you're wrong. This is it. This is why we're elected. So with that, let's go into citizens communication, and I have, Stu, do you wanna come up?
Oh.
Hey Stu.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
I just have a few things. First, well, the last one on my list, Lisa, I texted you a couple months ago about that water leak at Chardonnay and Marlena. Right across from the Novas cluster. It appears that it's still leaking, so
Okay, I'll let Ben know again.
did they do anything? I saw a guy out there working on that.
Let me check with Ben and get with operations to find out, but we'll get back to it for sure, Stu.
Okay.
What kind of leaks, Stu?
It's been there long enough that there's mold and algae growing on the curb. But if I were to guess, there's a trash tree there that the roots have knocked some piping loose.
Oh, okay.
You think it's irrigation?
Yeah, that was
Could
my
be
question.
irrigation. Yeah, it's on, it's probably in our easement.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, regarding the budget and, the park bonds, has any action been taken with the bonds that were approved a few years ago?
Yeah, can I respond to that?
Sure.
Yeah, so, all the meetings are recorded, and I know it's kind of hard to go back and read that, but yes, it's, actually with TCEQ right now to get approved.
Okay,
We've been working with Trent and we've, designed the new playscape here, as well as, the parks plan that we worked on with the board with you. And so they've done all the proper paperwork. Lauren, did you mention, do you wanna touch on that?
So it's currently under regular review. We should be seeing it hopefully in November, barring any hiccups. As far as just, I think they've had some staffing issues and some new people come on, so just outside of those delays, we should see it before Thanksgiving.
I thought it was under expedited.
I did check about that, because the way it was submitted was with preliminary plans. The TCEQ required it to go to regular review, pending more fleshed out details, so.
So you're reaching out to them almost daily, right? Is that what you said last week, that you're?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sure David's enjoyed all my emails, and I'm sure the TCEQ has too, so.
So hopefully that answers your questions, Stu, that yes.
so the only thing that the board has approved is just the reconstruction of the.
No, I believe the paperwork included the bathrooms at Tonkawa,
And some trail.
and trail work,
Okay,
and the playscape for now, yes.
okay. Did that,
Dog park too, I think.
It was the plans that we had adopted when you were on the board. I think
With
we
a few
modified
minor
it just a tad.
Yeah, but we worked with Trent on a modified thing to do, come on in.
Well, I don't wanna block you from getting to see.
Yeah.
go ahead.
The dog park's not gonna go back there, it's in the creek, it's a modified thing.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
And it's all within the allotted amount that we approved, like, was it 3.75 or something?
3.15.
Okay. And then, for the budget for this year, I'm concerned that is there a deficit?
For the current or the one that we're about to?
We're about to approve.
No, and I would encourage you to sit here and listen to us. I know Director Johnson and I and Sean have worked endlessly. Lisa and Tyler have worked the last 5 days nonstop, and we actually are not gonna have a deficit if we all approve what we're looking at tonight. But we're going lean.
I just didn't know, and Lauren may be able to address this, if we go into a deficit or go into our surplus and our surplus falls below what we normally have, does that affect our bond ratings and our interest rates on this bond that we're trying to get money from?
Yeah, no, Lauren can answer that, but I think I'll do it just real quick, and I would encourage you to stay, and this is not gonna be a long meeting tonight, but that is our goal, to make sure we've got the top rating right now, and what we're doing, we don't wanna tap into reserves, and that is our focus. So your concerns are many of our concerns.
All right, I'll stick around and watch.
Awesome, Stu, thank you. Okay, Sandy?
At one time y'all changed the rules to where the citizens could talk before the agenda item or.
Yeah.
Can I do that?
I don't think that's a problem, can I ask the rest of the directors? I think that went well last time.
No issue.
Okay. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started, and thank you, Sandy, let us know when you're ready to see what your item is. Another item I wanted to discuss is, I'm doing something a little different tonight. I am here present, I'm not feeling well, I'm gonna stay as long as I possibly can. I will probably stay the entire night, but, even a week ago, Vice Chair Shoemaker and I decided that I'm gonna let him run the meeting tonight. And, I'm doing that just so that I cannot be seen as biased on any issues. So with that, here's the gavel, run the meeting.
Taking over as chair, I see, Chair Logan, we got through the citizens communications, and Sandy's got, which item does Sandy want to talk about, so I know? 5, okay. Got it, okay. All right, so moving on to agenda item 2, if there's no one else that has any comment. So that brings us to our work session on the tax rate, on the budget. So, I think our best play here is to, I know David, Director Johnson, Director Logan working on, revision budget, if y'all could present y'all's proposed revision stuff to discuss.
Yes, so do we have that here in, hard copy?
We do not, Tyler,
Right, just let me share my screen really quickly. We've made a couple of changes since the last version that I sent out to you guys. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So as Ursula mentioned just a second ago, we've made a couple of changes. The revenues are going to be the same, but we've cut down the expenditures to pretty much bare bones, just trying to get the expenses as low as we possibly can. A couple of major changes, but I'll scroll down to the very bottom. Right now, with everything that we've cut, we're looking at a deficit of just $42,000, which, again, that's bare bones. I like to be pretty conservative with my budgeting, but this is pretty much assuming no disasters happen, which you never know. Major changes were to maintenance and repairs for water and wastewater. We moved, let's see.
Tyler,
Hey, Tyler, Director Roberts, is a question were you about to ask Director Roberts?
I'm just asking him to slow down.
Oh,
Because
sorry.
the rest of the board is unaware of all of these things that just got
Hey,
changed.
Tyler, why don't we do this? Why don't you do this why don't you walk us through line by line for each, starting at the top, down to the bottom, for each change you made, okay?
Sure.
I'm sure
Thank
that- well,
I know that we had, I think it was $30,000 budgeted for meter replacement before. Lisa got with me and said we can move that down to $10,000.
Okay,
I don't remember exactly what the number was before, but I know it was significantly more than $85,000 for maintenance water. We were able to lower it down based off of Lisa's updates that she sent to me today. Same with leak detection. Leak detection was 11,000. We've lowered that down to 1,500.
Hey, Tyler, this is Ursula, can I interrupt you real quick, and I'm sorry if you already mentioned this. Lisa worked with Andrew on these directors, just so you understand that
yeah.
Lisa gone through that, okay, go ahead.
Moving on, maintenance repairs for wastewater. Again, I don't recall exactly what the numbers were before, but I do know that it was significantly higher. We've got it down to $40,000.
It was 128.9.
Okay, can you explain why such a decrease?
Lisa, do you?
Yes, I can explain that the reason that Ben had initially increased it so much is because of the issues that we've had with AT&T. But we're not gonna assume any of that responsibility. We're gonna go off of the budget that we know that we can work with if AT&T were managing their own repairs. With that being said, as far as them paying for them.
And, well, Director Roberts, can finish your question, I'm
I
gonna follow up.
just wanna follow it, cause I'm looking at last week's, modifications we did, so I just kinda wanna track exactly what was modified and the reasons why they were modified. Okay.
Good point.
A quick question on this one, this is Director Shoemaker. So of that 40,000, those are expenditures you're going to make, right? These are all things you're going to do, is there programmed work that is gonna occur during the year?
It would only be if it's maintenance or repairs, so only really just repairs. Maintenance wise, we are doing just fine. We haven't had any issues in the district operationally. So only if we have a repair that comes up, then we will pull from that portion right there.
So this is hypothetical, so if there's no repairs to be made, then at the end of the budget, that 40,000 would still be intact?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, good questions. Moving on to the next big change was fence maintenance, number 16613. We lowered that one down all the way to 0, just not projecting any fence maintenance for this year. Directly below that is Park and Walker House maintenance. We lowered that one down to $35,000. Lisa let me know that she gave me some estimates. Lisa, you can go into details if you'd like, but 35,000 seemed to be sufficient to cover what is necessary for this fiscal year.
Yes, so we had 174,000 that we spent within this last year or budgeted for this new coming year. We had a lot of dig dug things that we did for the pools. We're not gonna need those things done again. Brass tacks is literally gonna be the park maintenance that we need additionally that Travis will take on himself. And also the operations that we'll use for our pest control, as well as a few items that we'll take care of as far as U-line, keeping up with the maintenance of the district, trash bags and things of that effect. But that's the most that we're gonna need in that area.
Okay, I did look, when I looked through the document you sent, Lisa, to the board, I know there was a lot of capital project items that previously I thought made sense. So it's good to know we were able to remove those.
Yes.
And Tyler, if you go back up real quick, so we made that change there in 16615, and then,
Whole maintenance went down too.
pool maintenance, was that also adjusted, or is that, I'm trying to recall, I'm making sure I'm looking at the right line, or is no?
And landscape,
Sorry, I'm reading it.
yeah. Can you make it larger, Tyler?
Yeah, actually, that would help a little bit, Tyler. I'm trying to read which ones, trying to make sure I'm referencing the right lines when I ask questions, it's a little bit hard to see which ones have comments.
People almost 70 years old need to see this.
Is that better?
Thank you, that helps a lot, yes.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine where we were.
So with your pools, I took down, we had a good, better, best on installing mini splits. We can still do that for the good price as opposed to better, best. And so that brought it down significantly. Instead of purchasing a storage unit, I had intentions of taking the unit that we currently store the ATV at and actually move this over here to the Tumlinson pool and utilize that storage unit there so that we're not having to purchase one for $10,000. We're just gonna pay the moving fee for it. So there are things that we can do to be able to save costs and still get what we need done.
So how are we gonna protect the ATV?
The ATV can be stored at Germano, just like the machine for the Chance Field.
Is that secure that the scouts
ma'am.
can't have access to it?
Well, and that'll be a conversation we'll have, but yes, ma'am, it will be secure.
You meant, can I?
Yes, Director Logan, yes, yes.
You talked about landscaping. Do you want to go into a little bit of your conversations with Tripp and Clint and how you?
Yes, so basically the landscaping that we have, we've done a great job of doing fire breakings. This obviously something is an endeavor that hasn't been taken on in previous years. With the heat that we've had and with the wonderful rain that we actually had in May and June and going into July, that was great, but it's not something that we can actually expect in the future. Instead, we've actually seen, having the water barrel. So those areas that we expected for them to go in and maintenance, we can definitely go a year out without them having to go in and do that additional maintenance. We might have a little bit of extra growth there, but it's not gonna be an overwhelming amount that we wouldn't be able to tackle it in 2026. So this would get us down to doing our regular standard maintenance for all of the landscaping in the area. You'll still have immaculate parks, and we'll be able to do the $12,000 for the mosquito treatment for 4th of July. We're just not gonna touch any other items until we're ready to do that, so.
Okay, thank you, Zia, because I had done some work, I got to a similar number looking at their stuff, so.
Do you have any other suggestions?
Well, so my number so the number I worked on was his present prior one from Trip, and that I don't think had his proper cost adjustment with the second document you sent, so I'd gotten something around 474. Of course, I did not manage to bring that document with me, plus when I saw the revised one, I knew my numbers might not be, I'd have to redo them, I didn't have time, because I saw them last night, so,
Do you have any other area that you would want to suggest that we bring down?
well, since I'm seeing this the first time, I'm trying to read through everything.
Yeah,
as well,
okay,
so,
gotcha.
So we talked about garbage expense earlier, which was an interesting conversation.
I mean, the TDS,
TDS, yes.
Yeah.
that's a pass-through,
It is,
It is, and
except for bulk.
Director Johnson, and thank you so much for bringing that up. Sean Johnson and I talked about that. Do you wanna lead that?
Yeah, Sean, what is up with the garbage expense?
So I don't doubt that it's incorrect here, but we kind of track through, when we say pass-through, it's being captured via O&M. So it's just kind of a normal, there are other districts that capture their trash expenses through how they charge for water and wastewater, as opposed to paying it through O&M.
But
So,
Sean, can I interrupt you?
sure.
It is converted onto the bill, so it is on the bill. It's on our utility bill, it's packaged in there to avoid taxes to the residents for paying it. That's why Sue Littlefield recommended it done like that.
I think we want to pull that and look at it, just to make sure it's still being
I just
expressed.
wanted to.
Well,
let
and
you know
also,
that.
that they, given the changes in the federal tax law, I mean, you've gotta have, a lot of people used to be able to itemize their real estate taxes, don't have enough
Yeah.
stuff to itemize anymore. You really gotta be itemizing a lot of money.
Assuming that correct, it's not cash flowing like it should. We're not making, I don't think we're making $750K of profit to cover that. So if perhaps we've fallen out of balance, but if that's the case, we need to look at it a little bit closer.
Well, what we need to also factor in that, the district incurs the cost for the bulk pickups. So that may be something else
Well,
that,
that's what I mean.
So you have two documents in front of you. You have the TDS
We got
contract,
yep.
and then you have, Lisa, thank you so much for pulling this, it literally is the last minute. Jamar pulled the actual, numbers for what residents are utilizing the 3 pickups a year. And it's not at all what we thought it would be,
oh, I know this.
and so we knew it.
so,
I've been
the-
complaining about it the whole time.
so
Well,
the,
let's work through Director, let's
Yeah.
finish Director Logan,
No,
finish
I-
Director Roberts.
Yeah,
So what were you saying, Director Logan?
It's a workshop, but.
Yeah.
go ahead.
Let's- one at a time, people are listening, we need Tyler to know who's talking to who.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and apologies for that, Director Roberts. So when Johnson and Sean and I were talking today, so let's pull these numbers, let's pull the contract, and it's not something we're gonna solve tonight, but I would encourage us to, and I think it's your subcommittee, maybe with Shoemaker,
It is.
to work with them, and maybe one, we move it out of O&M, maybe we do something different. Two, maybe we readdress the contract. I mean, they asked us to review that contract mid-year this year because of some of their costs going up, so it's okay for us to do the same. And that could be, and Sean, please add on to this, but that could be a
Yeah.
significant,
No, I agree. I mean, you'll recall that TDS came to us, I think in 2020, maybe 2021, and asked y'all to reconsider their contract to cover inflationary considerations. And my thought here is if everybody's theoretically paying for 3 bulk pickups per year, that's about 2,200 connections, about 6,600 total. I'm adding up these numbers, quick lawyer math here, it's less than 600 that we're actually utilizing. And so,
it's actually 524,
Yeah.
which is 8%.
yeah, so,
Wow.
and I don't know exactly, we can talk with Jamar about how they program that cost in and how it's separated, but I think we might wanna look at shifting our contract in terms of what we're actually paying for and what's front loaded there.
Yeah.
And so, can I ask a quick question on this document? So this is the bulk pickups where people have them come to their house to do the pickup, or is this the
That-
It's curbside,
curbside, okay?
yes.
So,
And can I just interrupt real quick? So when we had COVID, that was the other reason why cost of gas, fuel went up and all that stuff. So that was why TDS asked us to reconsider
Right.
their pricing. So we considered that obviously, because everybody was incurring. I think Trip came in and had a fuel surcharges. I think Crossroad had some fuel surcharges. So we had to factor in that in a lot of ways. But and even the bulk pickup, did we get numbers for that, or is this just curbside?
This was the curbside.
Good. I would like to know how many people are using the bulk pickup, because I think Ursula, you and I were on that TDS when we moved over to curbside, to give the residents an option that didn't have vehicles to transport their
Yeah.
things.
That's a good point, and I shared that with Johnson and Sean today, that the history of why we switched, because there were some people that couldn't use the bulk pickup
Yeah,
at Pomona. And so, there is definitely a need, and I think some people are utilizing it, but I think we can renegotiate that. I will say, I usually attend the, Humana thing, and it's usually packed, and they usually fill up before the time, so it's not that it's not being utilized.
but even, I mean, with it, I'm sorry.
well, I would like to get, and we can do this in a subcommittee meeting, but I would like to know exactly, is it the same residents? Because that's what I see a lot of it, and historically, that's what it's always been, the same residents that are using it over and over. And it's there, we kind of tied it into restrictive covenants. It was like, okay, some people just need somewhere to take their stuff. Not every community provides this, so, we need to find out how it's broken out and the cost for that.
Agreed, and if I may, that, with these percentages, you could easily, if we cut it down to 1 or 2, you could easily use your neighbors, because your neighbors aren't using it, right? One could, I mean, so that would be very good if we could figure out how it's impacting the bill. If it's supposed to be on the bill, it doesn't, I mean, it's a big 800,000 in our, before today, that's most of our overage.
Well, I think this is far as some community, but also from the board, I think we need to talk, as a person who uses this, because honestly, the one problem is if you can't devote half your Saturday on the Saturday that there is the bulk pickup event, your SOL, unless you take it all the way to the dump, right? Which is on the other side of Hutto Taylor, right? Like, it's a haul.
Cost you $125 to do it too.
Not quite that, but the reason I was gonna say though is because I've done it recently, is I noticed in our exhibit D, Shomi had expressed this with TDS. I have tried to get them to pick up a mattress before and they have refused.
They cannot
So
do it, it's something about the way they have to
Do the-
dispose of them.
No, they
So
can't
they told me it had to do with the volume of their truck that comes around for the curbsides.
I think it's also,
But the bottom line is, their contract here is a bulk item is mattress box springs. I'm not interested in paying them for service to pick up mattresses they're not picking up. If me and the other residents who have mattresses disposed of are taken to the dump, we need to get them to figure out what the rate is that when we pick up. And if that's box springs only, we need to get it changed, but
we can talk about that in an exception meeting.
yeah, we definitely go through this.
So I think, I guess the reason somebody brought it up and why we talked about it today is that might be another area of savings and a different way of handling it than we have in the past. So I would love for you guys to talk about this at the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, just to make sure we're on the same page here, I mean, if indeed it was the intent to build solid waste pickup into the wastewater cost, it's absolutely in red. And this, as a standalone item, this is about 10% here, 10 cents of your O&M would be attributed to, with my quick math. It's a huge standalone fee. I agree, we ought to unpack whether it was intended to be captured under wastewater fees that are going out on the utility bill. But even if it is, it's not enough, it needs to be reconsidered. So,
Absolutely, we
yeah.
can do that.
Because that would be more than the rest of the deficit that's here, by
Yes.
several orders of magnitude.
Yes.
My thoughts are we've got an overlap on services, we got two ways to get rid of big dumping things. I would be in favor of going one path or the other. There was a question earlier about perhaps the bill. Basically, my bill has water, sewer, TCEQ, and base. So I'm assuming that the base is what's covering the,
Tyler, I don't know, I'll defer to y'all on that answer, Lisa.
I would have to look at the rate order.
The base does include the trash.
Base does include it.
And that $10 park fee, maybe you're next.
Yes.
I would just like to respond to Director Young's comment of one or the other, and there was a reason why we did it, is not all residents can utilize the bulk drop-off at
Yeah,
Humana.
disabled residents.
Older residents,
vehicles.
people don't have trucks, and so we're trying to make something fit for purpose for our entire community. But I think we can find a happy medium in between.
Okay,
Well, and I think one thing real quick is that I think that when we, in the past, having things like the fire tax and the waste and the tax rate made more sense when people could itemize more thoroughly. Because they raised the salt deduction so thoroughly at the federal level, I mean, I'd be really shocked if any of the neighborhoods got the right setup to be itemizing their taxes anymore for their state tax, they're able to claim it, right? Because the thresholds are just so high. So we probably also, I'm not saying we need to change that now, but something we probably need to consider for the fire tax as well, because that is also a big chunk of our O&M rate. It's under the 3.5% limit. And like the INS, is completely outside our control for what that rate is on a year-to-year basis. We don't have any discretion over what that has to be what it is in the contract. So that's not for right this moment, but we need to bear in mind that, we might need to reevaluate those, because in the old days, yes, you could itemize on your taxes. It could provide an advantage on your federal taxes, but that salt threshold is so high.
And I think the fire is a pass-through.
What it is, my point is that versus doing it, say, on the water bill, right? We need to look back at the advantages and disadvantages to the residents of having it in the tax bill, where it's something they have to pay once, and where, I'll just be honest, the consequences of failure to pay are much more dramatic and severe than having it on the water bill, where if a resident's having a temporary hiccup and they're late or they miss a month or two, the consequences are not in the same ballpark as missing your tax bill on the 31st.
Well, and we just probably need to talk about the fire tax, because I don't wanna really mess with that, because we gotta pay that, the district has to pay it, no matter whether we like it or not, it's a
No,
contract.
we gotta pay it, I'm talking about how, we can talk about how we pay it.
Well, I think it can be done the way it's done, I can't imagine it'd be any different, otherwise you're assessing it through their water bill, and one way or
That's
the
exactly
other.
what we're
Whether
saying.
they need it, we can look back and see.
So I think it's fine the way it is, but that's my opinion.
But the
Real quick.
impact is the O&M. This is, what, did you say, 60-70% of fire and TDS?
Yeah.
Of
But you
our
also
O&M.
have, yeah, you got that, and you also have the revenue from it. So it sets it off, it should, in my opinion. I mean, Lauren, are you listening to me?
I am listening keenly.
The fire's not on utility bills, is it?
No,
No, I mean, that's uniquely caught.
yeah, but my point is that if we're gonna hold these things long-term, right, we're gonna call it like, if we're gonna shift things off the tax bill to the
Yeah.
utility bill, we should talk about that. It doesn't have to be done today, we should have a long-term basis.
Speaking of that, I'm gonna shift gears just real quick, because you mentioned something that I totally just had forgotten about. We do collect a park fee, a $10. Where is that revenue reported on this budget?
It's 14.
I can pull that up real quickly, 1 second.
Can you scroll up to that part, Tyler, to the revenue section of the budget again real quick, so we can all see?
Because it was zero amended budget.
There you go, park revenue.
So that's who you see, Director Roberts,
Right.
so that $260,000 on the income stream is that fee on the utility bills.
So on the amended budget, it was zeroed out, or there was no change in it? Okay, sorry. my bad, my bad.
No, that's why, this is why we're talking about these things.
So that's another option, which we took 6 years ago, we could increase that park fee.
I mean, we can discuss that, we don't have to resolve it all tonight, but I think we need to have some discussion about
I mean, $20
ultimately.
per household? I mean, yeah, thank you very much.
Well, between the bond, the residents allowing an increase in debt, they want nicer parks. And I'm with that, and now that we're gonna be paying off another bond, I would be in favor of a park fee increase.
Do you have further questions, Director Roberts, on this? Okay, so Tyler, then, Director Logan, was there something else you were gonna say here? I was gonna ask Tyler when to resume on,
No, no.
where were we on the, I think we'd gotten through fence maintenance, I think is where we're about,
Right.
or we
Right, so we last spoke about fence maintenance and the Park and Walker House maintenance. I think Lisa already dove into this one. So moving on, we have 16617. This includes that ATV repair that Lisa had mentioned. hoping to not replace it for $20,000, so $5,500 to repair it instead. Let's see what else changed.
Can I ask a real quick question? How often is it being maintained? I mean, because that is not that old and they're built to be rugged. What is happening?
The problem is that whenever it was purchased, it wasn't purchased for the adequate use. So obviously Bill wasn't pulling trailers with it, he wasn't pulling a power washer with it, he wasn't going into your creeks and pulling out all of the additional homeless camps that Travis is having to utilize. So we have maintenanced it, we do take care of the tires on it, we have had to change out the batteries on it. The motor is just done because we are pulling a vast amount more than what it was created for. Hence the reason why I gave you an option, which obviously is definitely not something we should look at now, but in the future, we might get another year or two out of a $5,000 motor, but it would benefit us to actually go to an ATV that actually would benefit the district, where you can pull the trailers that we're pulling. Like I said, just the power washer by itself, it's a vast amount more than what this, it doesn't have the torque, so it cannot pull like the way that it's supposed
And I
to.
don't think it was intended to.
It was never
So-
intended to.
So the 20K, is that the price for a nicer ATV that could do it, or is that the price to just swap out for the same?
That's for the nicer one, but again, considering our budget and being considerate right now, we're looking at just replacing this year at 5,500. So it'll get us through another couple of years, get us out of where we're at right now, and we can reconvene on it.
Tyler, would you change that per Lisa to go 5.5K?
It's actually in that dollar.
I'm sorry, I was just looking at the notes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, so moving on, not a lot of changes to any of the consultant fees. I think we changed this Triton, I think it was 6,000 before, we switched it over to 1,000 based off of Lisa's recommendation. And the only other big change was the Tomlinson, the Tomlinson line item, 17,913. Lisa gave me a few new projections for different projects that are listed up top. I don't remember which one is which. Lisa, do you have any backup on that?
Yes, so we do have the 4957 and the 6406 are gonna be the mini splits. We have roughly $1,500 that we'll look at, let me think about that one for a minute. It's gonna be $1,500 for the inspection fees, and then another $5,000 for looking at doing the asphalt. Instead of us actually having it resealed and have it striped, we're gonna do that in-house. We're not going to actually do all the entire asphalting, we're just gonna do some restriping that we can do on our own, and then also we have asphalt bags that we can purchase just to fill
Now,
holes.
when you say do it on our own, what does that do?
Travis will go out and he'll actually repaint stripes for you, so that way you can have parking lot stripes. We have the stenciling for it, we have the paint for it, and we'll put that under park maintenance fees. So it'll get us through another year, and it'll give you aesthetically what you need just for it to be able to work for us. And in the past, it's something that, like I said, we haven't done, so it'll be just fine. Those parks those parking lots they'll hold just fine for us to be able to do that. And then the last item that we have, I think, is a 10,000, so that was gonna be, again, trying to accommodate a storage unit as well as changing the fencing for the chemicals. Because before it was 10,000 just for the storage, now we're gonna do a fence and moving that storage unit over here and repurposing it.
And what did those cost again?
So the storage unit that you have over here.
What item is it?
Is that the 2,000 and the
The
5,000?
$10,000 one at the beginning is
Oh,
gonna be
10,000.
for your, moving of the ATV storage unit over here to someone's pool and then adding the fencing around it. Okay?
And after that, the only change I made was the BGE Spyglass. There is a $6,000 yearly maintenance fee for that.
When are we ever gonna see that?
I have it.
Yeah, it's right
I
now.
have it.
It's already
I
there.
have it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would love to go over it.
Absolutely, we can pull in the services, I've got all of your most pertinent information, warranty work on it, and you'll be able to see every project that we've done. We've done more than $2 million worth of projects out here since 2022.
You might have, there was one of the meetings, and I don't know if it was you were absent or late, we did have just a demonstration of it once they got it up.
We're looking at it, yeah.
I just can't remember, maybe the ones, there was one we had that discussion, but I can't remember.
Water meters and where the water was running.
They showed it up here.
Yeah, I just want to see it, it's fine.
Yeah.
We've got everything.
Director Johnson, were you gonna say something?
I'm only wondering, so procedurally, I don't wanna approve a budget that has even a small deficit. So some of the issues we talked about tonight, moving trash or fixing how TDS is on the utility bills would more than take care of that amount. When do we need to have the budget approved?
Next month.
Next month, so September.
With the tax rate on the 5th, right?
Okay, I'm good.
And we have a meeting on the 28th next week as well to address some of these issues before then, correct?
So if we could, does the TDS on the utility bill, that issue, is that something theoretically that could be resolved by next week?
Probably not.
But it's not that significant.
It is.
The amount or
huge.
the
huge.
issue?
It's huge. I mean,
But help me understand how you calculate that as huge.
sure. Look under the expended, the revenue is 14,201 and 14,204, that's less than $1 million. And when you turn over to expenses, go to the wastewater expenses, you got 150, you got 330, you got 130 in maintenance and repairs, I'm looking at the old numbers here, and then you add in the garbage cost, which is 750. So if the attempt was to capture all the garbage costs on the wastewater side, we'd fall behind.
How did we fall behind?
I don't know.
This is the first time we've ever had this discussion, like to this level. So I'm a little taken back, how did this happen?
It's not how it just happened, I think.
No,
I think we should have had this discussion years ago.
But how did we not have this discussion?
Director
Well,
Roberts, respectfully, whatever has happened in the past, we got new board members, we got people that didn't know, including yourself. How are we gonna fix it?
Well, that's what I want to understand.
Well, I think part of
So-
this, to interject real
Go
quick,
ahead, Doug.
is not having done the math in front of this myself, kind of going with Sean's description here. I think part of the problem is that the fee on the bill has not been changed in a while, but our costs with TDS have incrementally changed.
That's-
And so in a given year, as this has progressed, it is unlikely it's presented much of a thing that is popped internal to the budget, right? It's, I think, kind of getting lost in the noise of, oh, it's up a few thousand, it's down a few, I don't think, because looking at what Sean's talking about, I don't think any of this stuff's gonna, like, it doesn't pop until you're really trying to do what we're doing today, which is like, okay, we're trying to limit the tax rate. We've had a lot of big expenses over the last couple of years, a lot of things to take care of, right? We've had the winter storm cleanup, we've had other issues to address, right? And so we've had the playground be removed, like, there's a lot of things that aren't normally in the agenda, right, to deal with. And so I think that's part of what's happened here, is you finally get to the point where you're clearing other things. Over time, this is accumulated, right, in small bits, now it's kind of more clearly obvious that, can you scroll back up, Tyler, actually, helpful, so,
Yeah.
because I'm looking at, so like, you're talking about,
Which rows are the revenue side of?
Yeah, let me,
I think it's 14, Tyler, hold on, I think it's 14,
201.
201, 204, and, hold on.
That's it for wastewater.
But then also for garbage.
Is that 301?
Oh, I'm not sure if the garbage fees are included in the basic services. They could be. I would need to get with
That's not
cost.
correct, where the fee on the bill is showing up, so
Right.
that fee is the basic service wastewater.
I think so.
Okay.
okay,
Can you repeat what you
Lisa,
just
do
said?
you know? Because y'all do the billing.
Do I know if we've added up the base and change?
Where is it at, the wastewater or
It would-
base?
It would be in the base.
Okay, so
we
it's
have
not
not-
wastewater.
No, I think you were saying is it's in the basic service
Right,
wastewater
that's
fee.
what I was trying to get clear.
That's what they said, 201.
But I think that fee has been used in the past to,
So it's never been increased, is what I understand. And we did.
That's what I would guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a really unfortunate thing that we rely on experts to give us this budget and we miss
But I agree
this.
with Director Young, let's move forward and fix it.
I get that, but I also know that this is a mistake that we should have caught a long time ago.
Granted, let's move forward.
Yeah. No,
So
I
is
get it.
301,
We're
is
here
301
now.
part of the revenue side? Like when we're comparing on this issue,
Mhm.
301,
301 is your maintenance tax collection, but yeah, 201 and 204, this is all revenue at the top.
right.
Yeah.
No, sorry, my question's not clear. What I'm asking is we're trying to see if the fees we pay for the fees we receive rather, are covering the expenses we pay for, because on garbage they're not. What I'm wondering is, so we're trying to balance, like you said earlier, the two sides of the equation.
Yeah.
On the revenue side, which line items are we looking at?
For wastewater, it's gonna be 201 and 204.
And garbage theoretically is in 204.
It's that base fee, so we've been using the 204 to subsidize garbage service, I think.
I think that's
Well,
right.
the
So
thing
all-
is the bills don't separate a water and sewer base fee. There's just a base fee. So the base fee is split evenly between water and wastewater.
Right, but you're not saying TDS in there, so either it's not on there or it's included in that, right?
Right.
Any idea which one it is between not in there and one of those two? I don't mean to be facetious, I'm just asking.
No, I know, respectfully, I don't think that would be a Lauren question. I mean, I'll pull the rate order, but I doubt that it's gonna say that garbage is built into that wastewater fee.
So what is the process of raising this? I know raising taxes or lowering taxes, it all goes through a whole process, but if we just said today, let's raise it by $10 for everybody, what's the actual process to get that adjusted
Yeah, the
to
method,
match what we're spending?
you have a rate order, and so we modified that.
A couple months ago, a year
Well,
ago.
we did
Just
the
recently.
water
Within a year.
increase, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all official thing, we voted on it, and then it's on the website, it's called the rate.
Yeah.
Order, yeah.
It's a rate order.
Yeah, I know we've done the rate order before, I guess, because I guess one of the questions too, I think that's come up is,
I think it was just before
It
you
was
three
very,
came
very
on
early.
board. Yeah, I think it
Was
was
it?
about
Okay.
almost 2 years ago.
yeah, we just.
So maybe they were not on the board.
And then we
Just
just,
before.
to be sure, we just did a rate study relating to the increased water costs, City of Cedar Park Stage 3. And then they rolled those back just when you would put that into place.
Do you, and you too should remember that, because,
Yes.
and Stu should remember, because I remember we had a pretty big discussion on that.
So May of 2023
Yeah.
is when.
Yeah, it was before we got on the board,
Yeah.
and we were
Just to
spoken
be,
about it.
just to be sure here, you know, you're, on the expenditure side, you've got 16, 202, 204, 205, and 208, which look to be the wastewater expenditures to me. And you are profiting, you're not considering garbage, you are turning a profit on wastewater. But if you're rolling garbage into the wastewater consideration, you are desperately in the red.
Understood.
We just weren't tracking it.
So when's the closest we can put that on the agenda to get that rate increase for base?
Well, one of the things that grew out of our conversation wasn't necessarily what was kind of contemplating this issue. And I think whether or not we need to reconsider and do an entire another rate study with regards to wastewater or not, I'm not sure, but that was one of the things that we had sort of tracked, you know, what would be ensuring that we're capturing everything we need to on the water and wastewater services side. The devices, the actual affirmative action required at the board level to change the rates is fairly simple. It's a rate order, published, send to TCQ, you accomplish it in one meeting. But you would wanna make sure you have your ducks in a row for what you include there.
And I think that's very prudent and fiduciary responsible for us
So,
to do that.
but what I heard was Director Young asked, what's the timing, like how, like, let's make this a priority.
Could this be done by the 5th, we're meeting on the 5th, if we,
Well, you and I can meet with them, we'll probably get him an answer by next Wednesday.
yeah, but I'm asking for the rate issue though, because you and I could talk to TDS about this, but I'm asking more how long to get let's say for argument's sake, right, let's pick something here, let's say hypothetically we say, you know what? We wanna pull the bulk curbside and the bulk days cost out of the tax rate and move it to the fee because we're going to adjust that at some point. And rather than have it baked in, we're collecting revenue for a cost for the whole year, capturing that. And we may be changing that, right? Push it to the fee so we can, when the VAT gets adjusted, residents will feel that adjustment immediately. How long would it take to get a rate order for that even, right? That's set up, like to adjust the rate.
Well, I think, David, to your point, step one is seeing what we can do. I think the initial focus here needs to be on.
Well, I was using the hypothetical, if we had some idea for change in mind, right? So I use the hypothetical, like, if we had some change in mind, how long would it take to put a rate order out? If we had kind of quickly figured out, we will make a change, right? Because there's a lot of changes we could potentially make.
You have autonomy to modify your rate order quickly, in a single, we could put it on your next,
Okay.
on your next
It
meeting.
doesn't have to be at two separate, regular meetings.
No, but with the caveat that oftentimes you would do a rate study before you amend your rate structure.
We did that recently.
We just did it, and he presented like 3 meetings ago or so, the gentleman.
That was the water.
That was just for
That was
water, we're gonna be including the TDS fees.
So we require a new.
We did a wastewater rate study, I believe, about 2 years ago, and so I think he does recommend that you do them. Lisa, do you remember, did Dave
Yeah,
recommend
that's
doing that
good.
every 3 to 5 years?
Yeah.
Of course, that costs money, folks.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
Does it matter that that's wastewater and we're talking specifically about TDS? Does that change?
No.
Okay, just making sure.
Cause I guess normally you don't do a rate, I mean, I get ready to do a rate study for wastewater, right, just trying to model flows, and capturing. But I assume for things like, say, the park fee or the base, which includes waste, right, maybe changing how it's arranged, does he keep, that's not really a rate studyable thing. I mean, we could talk about it, there's not like a consultant you can call like, hey, do me a rate study on my solid waste, right?
yeah.
If our lines are correct, that shows 341, so that would be certainly worth our time,
Yes, it would.
certainly worth the rate study.
Even with the cost of whatever the,
Mhm.
yeah. So,
That's 300 more than we need, right, that's me.
so what I heard you say was, you don't wanna approve a budget that's not 0.
Unless, if for some reason we had to, but I don't know that we have.
Well, can I make a quick motion to this, that I maybe briefly? And Tyler, here's a thought is, anything that we don't have, and this meeting else we're releasing on this, my suggestion would be to get us closer to 0D, and maybe you've already done this, is anything that's a hypothetical cost, right? For example, in the ATV, the extra 15,000 for potential replacement, anything that's not for sure going to be expended in the course of next year without additional board action could be pulled from the budget. I'm not saying we don't wanna make that the final moves, you have things to talk about, but just simply for our purposes of knowing what costs we have to cover without any additional action by the board.
That's what.
I think, but my point is like, it's like.
But ATV still had 20.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you did it wrong, Lisa, because like, you can get that without, but my point is like, to really go through and like, we're gonna spend at least 5K on the ATV no matter what,
Plug in.
but we might not spend
No,
20.
I don't think so. Pull
It was
up
shown as
ATV.
20,
It's still showing
5,
20.
Lisa.
It had your notes on the side,
Yeah, it had
but it didn't
20,000.
have 5 here, it had 20.
It should just be 5,500, that's what that
Well,
should be.
there's other park equipment that essentially could need being replaced. So I have like 5,500 for the ATV and then 15,000 for potential others. So that 15,000 could be removed. I'm not sure exactly.
I'm not clear, what's that, 15,000 for potential what?
Yeah, I misunderstood, Tyler. I thought that was a 15,000 contingency if we had to replace the ATV. So apologies, Lisa, I was
Oh.
reading that thinking it was being a contingency on top
I'm
of the
still not clear what
55,000.
that 15,000 covers, so you said potential what?
Any other potential park equipment that needs to be maintained throughout the year. I don't have any specifics, but I mean, it's very possible that something needs to be.
We had a tilt-a-whirl that went out at Tonkola Park. We had to replace that. That was an extra $2,700. It was $400 to get it sent over here. Then you had to get the mats for them, and all the mats were another $800. So you just don't know when those tilt-a-whirls is gonna go out. Same thing with the swings. I took my extra swing sets.
No, I get to what's the problem, like, I'm just, because again, lack of clarity from the document, because like I said, we were discussing ATV, and it was all the
That's what I
options, so I think all of us were thinking that
It's just
it was being
ATV.
shown as a 15,000 possibility with a 5,500 required.
Yeah, that makes
So-
sense. That makes sense.
Right.
So we've got 40, we gotta take out. What do we-
So I offered up earlier, I'm happy to shave 10% off my projected amount, so that's 24K, so that gets you about halfway through the remainder.
But you
So
don't anticipate using the whole 200,000, do you?
is that the question directed?
Yeah, that is for you, Mr. Rabbit.
Well, we serve at the pleasure of the board, so, I will give you the same answer I've historically given. That number would be, I have reason to believe that the amount will go down, but I would point to the number that is there for the current fiscal year.
That's my part, we're gonna cut that number, we expended $237,000, I'm hesitant to
There are
appropriate things
You know,
where there's not.
there are reasons,
I see one right now.
It's not aspirational, but I think that there are, your new legal system has a lower rate than previous one.
Okay, so you think we can make it, how much, 24,000 you
Can we
said?
bring it to 200?
Like I said, I'm happy, the conservative
So 10%.
estimate on my side is 10%.
To 10%.
Thank you for the adjustment, Tyler. And
Yes.
Director Logan, you said you saw some reduction you wanted to make?
Yeah, I accidentally wrong.
Right, and
Good
I
choice.
just want to kind of remind the board, this isn't essentially, we don't want to just try our hardest to get this number down to 0 while taking out things that we don't know will happen. Just because this is more of just a tool, like this being 0 doesn't really benefit us. If the actuals come in and it says something most likely will happen, it'd be better to have it on here. I mean, no one likes to see a negative number, but it's much worse to see your actuals come in less than your budgeted amount.
Well, Tyler, I will just throughout here my years of experience in other fields, not to be cold, this is not an attack on any of the staff or board members, this is just the truth of budgets. If it's on the page, it's gonna go out the door. And so my thing is, at the end of the day, because we are so tight and all this stuff that expends is gonna come out, whether it's 18,000 a day in an adopted budget that's in the deficit out of the certain reserves, or it is coming out of the reserves after adoption of the 0 budget, it's still gonna have to go before the board. And I'd much rather have to have these items come to the board for approval to amend the budget than I would that we just go, hey, the money's in the budget, because that's probably what got us in trouble a little bit this year with how things we've been doing. We had some extra things, but, so I guess Tyler, in all honesty, I'd rather have things be under budgeted, we have to come back for discussion about spending on them, knowing we have to do it, discussing the amounts, than have a deficit budget when we're gonna go out and issue bonds. And this is also budget's gonna drive tax rates as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can I ask a question?
Sorry, Tyler, thank you.
What's 16703? No, I'm sorry. Oh, never mind. My eyes keep going.
No, it's hard, Director
Yeah.
Logan.
So Tyler, I do have a question for you, and I think I posed it last week, but I'd like to ask it again, just for the current moment. Where are we at with our budget? Do we have any room to put some of these expenditures into this year's budget?
Oh, our current year budget is quite in the negative. I think we're at 675.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can't move any of those projects over this year.
0.
Currently, we're at 18,000, which is a 99% reduction from what we had beginning of the last meeting.
Yeah.
So, a
So,
note of positivity.
yeah,
for the
so let me
board.
ask you this, Tyler, sorry, we have it, Taylor. How does that $670,000 deficit impact our 2024-25 budget?
It doesn't affect the 2024-25 budget. That's simply in a budgeted amount that was reserves were used to keep that a budget balanced. And once this fiscal year ends, that's just the amount. It becomes a matter of cash on hand at the beginning of the year. So essentially, we had a deficit this current year, budgeting for $675,000, where we're using the reserves on hand to cover that.
So, let me ask you this. So we have those reserves and, you're saying that it won't impact the 2024-25. So, we just amended the budget. Do we have a negative at that time when we just amended it about a
This
couple
is
months
the
ago?
amended budget. The original proposed budget, I think, had a deficit of $200,000, and we ended up going a little further than that, and it ended up being $675,000.
So how many months of reserve do we have currently?
Currently, with the budgeted expenses that we're looking at budgeting for this year, we have about 10 and a half months of months of reserves. If
Okay.
we were to use the budget as we have it right now, we would drop down to about 10.4 by the end of the fiscal year, by the end of fiscal year 2025, if everything were to go exactly as the budget says.
Okay. And I do concur with David Shoemaker that we don't want to be putting money in there because it's kind of like everybody thinks they've got to expend it.
Right.
Government budget.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here, Shoemaker?
Well, I think, has everyone kind of given their thoughts on where this should be, I think, for right now? I mean, I'll say from my end, I think that we, after we wrap up, Director Roberts and I and Sean should probably have a discussion with Lisa about setting up a time next week to visit with TDS. So that way, we probably can get something presented to the board by the 28th, we can probably present something by the 5th to discuss that. But I think at this point, if we run out of place, we wanna make reductions at this time, like Director Lowe, give another reduction.
Yeah, well, I was saying maybe just go around the table and see if anybody has that.
Oh, I was gonna have a piece, I was gonna,
Yeah,
I was
but
gonna.
I do have one more reduction. Can we, Boggs, don't listen to this. Can I see Wilco off duty?
It's 125.
I know, I wanna see, okay, so 16801, so, yeah, so I just wanna make sure, we actually used 123, 125.
Yeah.
We don't wanna reduce hours, residents don't wanna reduce hours, I just wanna see, cause I know sometimes we can't fill all those hours, so I just wanna make sure we're kind of right there in the realistic part of what we're doing, so.
No, thank you for bringing up, yeah, so, I was in my piece, and I was gonna move on, here we go around, but basically I was gonna say, I think that, from my end, I think one of our next stops, we just have a discussion, and we'll work with Lisa and Sean on, and sort of subcommittee on having a breakdown a bit of where we are on the water rates we're bringing in, what we're doing on trash, the base for the parks.
Park fee.
Park fee and the base fee, because we probably have some discussion about that. And if we're lucky, we can bring something to at least begin work on the 5th. So, that's my piece, that's all I've got to say. I'll work around starting with Director Logan, finishing with Director Roberts, so.
Yeah, no, I'm just impressed, and I wanna thank everyone that actually spent a lot of time and really putting some deep thought into this, Tyler, Lisa, Sean, and the directors, Lauren, everyone, so thank you. I'll pass to Director Young.
No further comments.
No, also, very impressed with this board. We, like you said, 99% of the way there, we have 1% left before we do hit 0, so, people find it, so.
Director.
Yeah, I've said a lot tonight, so I'm just gonna concisely put that in my following finish.
Okay, well then I'm gonna say that we are done with subsection A of, item 2, the work session. So let's move on to item 2B, establish and take record vote on the proposed 2024 tax rate. Sean or Lauren, which one of you would like to lead on this initially, the discussion? I know there's a legal aspect to discuss about or a developed district or not, and I know we have to walk through the rates, I just didn't know who needs to go first.
Yeah, I think, well, I'm happy to kind of speak generally about it. I think we talked about designating as a developed district at your last meeting. Just to refresh everyone's memory, two-step process here. What we are doing tonight is establishing a proposed tax rate subsequent to the meeting, undertake a publication, provide public notice as required by law, just to ensure that the public is aware of what your proposed tax rate is, and then when your actual tax levy meeting is going to occur. So as always, our advice, and defer to Lauren for tax advice here, but we would never recommend that you levy any higher than what we publish, but you can always go lower.
Thank you, Sean. Lauren, do you wanna walk us through the information you've got for us here? We've got the nice charts in our book walking through the different rates.
So I did also just bring y'all a standalone, just in case.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So your 2024 certified value, including what the appraisal district is anticipating will eventually be certified, is that $727,579,385. And so out of that,
Can you turn on the light for this?
$725,319,660
Hold on one
is,
sec, Paul, let's get the, if we wanna bring up the lights, we turn the fans off though, just for a bit, briefly.
Let Director Young stand.
Yeah,
Okay,
there you
thank
go, much better, thank you, now I
Is
can.
there a
fan off switch?
And we can swap back once we're done with this
yeah,
part.
so this is
Thank you, Lauren.
essentially, if you just kind of go down that M&O column, you'll see certified and the uncertified amount, owner's opinion, that's WCAT's opinion. Really, 725 million and change is already certified, so out of the 3.7 that's currently certified, they're anticipating a little over 2.2 will be certified. we are recommending this year a total tax rate of 56.05. That's approximately 3 cents less than last year. And that was driven, if y'all want to pop over to my page 3, which is the mock-up of the notice of public hearing.
Thank you, Lauren.
So you'll see in the second half of that page, we have last year's tax rate, the 59.05, and then directly across from it, our recommendation this year at the 56.05. If you look down at the last little bit that is highlighted, that 3.48%, we are keeping you right under the 3.5% cap for a developed district. If you go up from that, you'll see last year's appraised value was $366,665. The appraisal district did raise that slightly this year to $370,093, where your tax rate recommendation is really being driven, as we talk about every year, is the taxable value of homes. Last year, and that is highlighted for you, it was $294,324. This year, that came in at $320,863, so that's a pretty healthy bump. Because of that, because we have to go off of what the appraisal district gives us as the average home value, that is why you're seeing that decrease in your total tax rate. And then the average resident would see about a $61 difference from last year to this year on their MUD tax bill. You'll also see we have your general homestead exemptions in there, a 4% max.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. A 4% max, per, the law, it can't go below 5,000, so y'all do have that 4% max that a district resident who applies for a homestead exemption could see. Going back over to my page 2, this is just showing you how we calculated your debt service portion of your tax rate. With your increase in value, you all currently have, since after September 1st, you'll have essentially 3 years remaining on your currently existing bonds, because we are not anticipating the part bonds to come out of the TCEQ before November. I'm not allowed to include those in your debt service because you haven't actually taken on that debt. That would show up in 2025, but you'll see in covering your outstanding debt and maintaining a 25% coverage in your debt service fund balance, which is a TCE requirement, and we've got you pretty much right at 25%. That's that 1875. So if you go back to our first page, and I'm sorry for the back and forth, there's not
No, not at all,
great,
this is complicated.
there's not a great way to do that, but you'll see we do have your 1875 debt service and contract tax rate, which for y'all is that fire tax rate of the 1145. Those are the two that cannot be changed at all. You have to be able to cover those expenses, whatever those come out to be. That leaves y'all with the 2585 that has been reflected in Tyler's draft budget projections. Our recommendation is obviously publishing the 5605. We'll come back to you next month, of course, for your public hearing to discuss further, but our recommendation would be at these numbers.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So I remember a year ago when we had this conversation in reverse,
Yes.
but I'm just curious again, why 3.48 and not 3.5? Sorry, on page 3 for the tax increase, is it because a 1 cent increase would be more than 0.02? I'm just curious, again,
So are you saying if I went from 5605 to 5705?
No,
No,
I'm sorry.
he's talking about,
But the
Director's talking about
percentage
on the
increase.
revenue increase, why aren't we just posting for the rate that brings in 3.5 flat? We could obviously adopt less or above, but he was just curious how we were
Okay,
adopting.
no.
It's this one right here.
Absolutely, okay, absolutely. If you wanted to do that and it comes out directly at 3.5%, that's 5606.
5606.
okay, I'm more just curious,
Yeah,
is there an advantage to doing, to not doing?
no, just sometimes we found that people prefer more
Less, sure.
rounded numbers.
Who doesn't prefer less taxes, right?
But with 5606, that puts you exactly at the 3.5% cap.
Okay, I'm just curious, I'm not, like I said,
So tiny.
So I have a
He's
question.
So Sean, I
asking,
think's got a question.
he's asking how we got to the 3.48% with the 5605. And I was just explaining to Director Johnson, if he wanted that number right there to be the 3.5 exactly, that would be 5606.
Sean, you still have a question? Is that the question?
Yeah, question for Tyler, if you don't mind. Tyler, just to confirm your assumption within the maintenance tax collections in the proposed budget, that is at the 5605 that we're looking at, right?
Yes.
follow-up question, what would 5606 do to the revenue?
Let me see, 1 second.
So your maintenance and operation
I
We
did
go
not
to-
want to approve a deficit budget.
would go to 2586.
Oh, yeah, I missed that.
I did too.
It would leave the total deficit at just over 17,000. So not a very big difference at all.
We still have to mostly do appetite suppressant this year, but
Thousands, right? That's.
Yeah, the thousands, yeah, but,
Can I be recognized?
yes, Director Logan.
Thank you. So our current tax rate is 0.5905,
Mm-hmm.
and you're recommending 0.5605. And I think you were just kind of going at this, Johnson. What if we just did, I mean, do we have to go down to 0.5605? We did a significant drop last year.
You did, and
So, I mean, and I get this is the published rate, right?
yes, unfortunately because you all are a developed district, and based on the averages given to us by the appraisal district, mainly that taxable home value. Legally, if you publish something or adopt, or I guess not necessarily publish, but if you breach that 3.5%, that's an election.
Mhm,
And
Oh, okay. I got it.
Well, I have
I got it.
no interest in raising taxes for $1,000, so less than 1,000.
I'm not,
No, I know you're not, I'm
You're
just saying, I was,
I'm not,
no, he
I don't
was
wanna
talking
raise the
through.
tax rate, but
I
it would raise the tax
burden.
case
But
burden.
yeah,
Right.
this is
I was
a net,
referring to my question.
I mean, the proposed rate here is a net tax increase, right, which is a whole separate discussion, but
Right,
I get where Director Johnson's asking, it's a valid question, it's marginal money, I get why he's saying, why do we just post at 3.5, because that gives you the maximum flexibility. So real quick though, Lauren,
and we're happy to do that.
I have a question real
Okay.
quick. And this may be for Tyler too, Tyler, and maybe my math's just wrong, let me notice on the back envelope real quick here. My back of the envelope math, based on Lauren's numbers, I show the proposed total rate of 0.5605 with the M and O rate proposed of 25.85. I think that works out to like a 3% increase in M and O revenue, in the revenue itself, not the budget, but the revenue. But looking at the number in the budget, I come out with a 2% increase in M and O revenue, and I could be, like, I can do this math more thoroughly there, I just wanted to make sure that Tyler, you're looking at that, like, you're using that 0.2585 M and O, right?
Right. So the
Okay.
reason for that is you're looking at, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. The approved 2024 budget is showing what we amended. So that is based off of the actuals. So we ended up actually collecting
Okay.
a little bit more in 2024 than we had budgeted for. It's about $20,000 difference. Also,
Okay, that is helpful, thank you.
Also in the
Can you put that
budget, we budget for 98% collections, which is typically on par to what we actually see.
No, that's good to know, because I know that we budget for 98, and I know sometimes it's like, but that's exactly where I was going. I wanted to make sure I was reading that right, because that's what I assumed is that we'd either gotten some delinquencies that had went in our favor, or we had an overage on collections. Okay, thank you.
Can you put that back on the screen?
Tyler, can you,
Sure. 1 second.
thank you. And then I think Director Logan has a question.
Yeah, Sean had just sent me a little note, passed me a little note a minute ago, just as a reminder, if we just increase the, park fee for $1 from $10 to $11, it would erase the deficit, so.
That's what I.
Well, you two, that's
Yeah, we just
something you're all talking about, right?
Yeah, no,
I mean, that's a very simple action, and
With the little
And I don't
asterisk.
think that's been
Let's do that.
touched since I've been around.
We started out at 20.
yeah, I think we lowered
dropped
it.
to
Yeah.
10.
well, and it gets back to a point though too, is, like I said, in the old days, having this stuff on the tax bill is a deductible item, like the lower, like, so people could say, I paid more in taxes, but I could potentially back out of my income tax. That option's off the table. Fees are not deductible either, but I think we need to have some discussion before we adopt, right? Ultimately, we probably have some discussion of our revenue split, particularly for things like trash, parks. How much need to come out of M&O and taxes versus fees? Because I think there's some discussion too about variability of costs and having things in a fixed revenue scheme where the costs are variable versus something on a less fixed revenue scheme like fees. So we can bring that up at a further point, but I think it bears more discussion.
So we
Director Johnson, or, well, I was gonna make sure, if you were still asking a question.
no, I was just asking what's next.
Were you,
That was roughly my question.
Director Young, do you have any questions?
I'm good.
Director Roberts? Okay. So I think we're at the point then on needing a motion to take a record vote on this proposed tax rate. And for the record, I'll make the note that for the people watching, that this is not necessarily the rate we will adopt. It is the proposed maximum we can adopt without, for this year. So I'm looking for a motion.
Motion.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor? Director Sean?
Do you wanna roll this, I'm sorry, you wanna roll this, all these three things together, B, C, and D?
I didn't know if we can, I can take a motion. Then Director Logan, can you withdraw your motion? I'll ask for a
I'll withdraw my
revised. Director Johnson withdrawing, I'll make a revised motion then, because you've got, I will combine items B, C, and D, which are, item B is established, we take record vote on the proposed 2024 tax rate of 0.5605. And then I'll add that with looking for motion to combine it with C to schedule a public hearing, let the adoption will be done, which will be September 5th, Sean, correct?
Hold on 1 second, this says the 11th on here.
It does say the 11th in
Okay,
the
'cause that was
packet.
marginal understanding, let's get that correct first.
I don't think we're the 5th.
September the 11th.
Okay, maybe it's the 11th, that's fine. Okay, we meet on the September 11th, and then we'll need also a motion to include authorizing the publications. If I can get a motion to establish, take a record vote on the rate, set the hearing, and authorize publication.
I motion.
Director Johnson makes a motion,
Second that.
Director Logan seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, those motions carry, and you're done with items 2, B, C, and D. All right, moving on at this point to item 3, consider Trinity AV Solutions invoice, like gavel, so that $10,087 for July and $10,236 for August. I believe this is our last one from them. Sean or Lisa, who wants to take the lead on this?
That's correct, so I chatted with Mike McKelvey, email interaction with Tim McKelvey. Suffice to say, this is the last thing that was outstanding here was the transition of the Brevo system. Kind of took offerings a while to take some time to get to it. Long story short, I think at some point in early August, we were ready to do that. And Trinity would just like to ensure that these last 2 invoices are taken care of, and then we'll transition that system over.
Do you have any comments, Lisa? Okay.
I have a motion to approve both.
Yep.
July and
You
August.
make a motion, need a second? All right. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, motion carries.
I do have one question.
Yes?
Is this the final billing for him?
Yeah.
So he's getting paid for everything?
Yep, this should be it, okay. And then that moves us on to item 4, review of all subcommittee meetings, protocols, and assignments. Go ahead and put that on the agenda. Sean, do you have a handout on this? Or
So
at least-
I would like to use my, agenda item, I'd like to move that after the review of the general manager, if we could.
I'm fine with pending that. We'll move that item forward to after item 5. And then that moves us on to item 5, review of the general manager. Again, I'm gonna, Sean, is there anything we need to have on here before we start this process?
I don't necessarily have anything preliminary with regard to it. I will point out that, pursuant to the Open Meeting Act, 551.074, you can just discuss personnel matters in executive session. I'll defer to you guys as to whether or not you'd like to do that, to review the GM or even a portion thereof in executive.
I will say that at this point,
Oh, I'm sorry, we've got a public comment.
well, I was gonna say, at this point, I remember the public comment, but also I was gonna say, we can put that to the whole board, we'll go through, but let's take Sandy's comment first. So if there's a decision to go to executive, that, she doesn't have to wait for us. So Sandy, if you could please make your comments on, agenda item 5, review of the general manager, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, so it seems like at least once a quarter, we're reviewing Lisa or we're reviewing somebody else. To be on this board, you've got to have interpersonal skills, and it's not real evident right now. I've been coming to the meetings for a while now, and I know that there's conflict, and I know that sometimes people just don't like each other or whatever. But when it starts taking up these meetings, not only are you wasting your time, you're wasting my time. And you're wasting other people's times that, are listening in on the owl. And so it just creates discontent in the community. And I wish that if you have a problem, and maybe my board's not different than that, but if you have a problem with somebody, go talk to them. If you hear that I said you shouldn't wear purple and green together, come talk to me. So go talk to each other. Let's stop the bickering and the carrying on. I really appreciate what Shoemaker said at the meeting last month, is that you guys have got business to do and don't have time for all the rest of the garbage going on. So, Lisa, I support you. If you said I shouldn't wear purple and green, we're gonna talk. But I think she's done a great job, and I think that constantly picking at her, if she got a raise every time we reviewed her, y'all couldn't afford her. So let's just kind of keep that in mind, and that's what I have to say.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to that point, so that is the item we had there, and then, I lost my train of thought, I was gonna make a comment, but Sean, you don't have anything to add, so then I'm going to, if it's all right, go around the table for comments from the board directors in order around the table, starting with Director Logan, including with Director Roberts, and then, actually, I did have a thing I was forgetting. We had the discussion about going into executive, let me clear that out of the way now. If there is a motion to go executive in a session, we can have a vote to go into executive. So is there a motion to discuss this in executive session?
I'd like a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
To go into executive?
Yes, to go into
I'd like to
executive.
can we do discussion before?
Yes, we can do discussion, so yeah,
Okay.
that's,
I'm actually not necessarily in favor of going into executive, but I understand some of the reasons why. I understand that we have somebody from Crossroads, and, I would like to see if she could join us in executive. I think that's important. So if we go into, and of course I wanna, what is your will, would you rather have it out here or an executive? There's pros and cons for both, but if we do go in, I'd please look to invite her in.
Yeah, I just prefer to have, like I said, or Crossroads, Shay here with us, and like I said, executive session is fine, just so that way everything can kind of be wrapped up, but no disrespect, I'd like to completely get back to professional business.
Director Young, do you have any comment on going to this motion?
I'd like to go into executive, yes.
Okay, Director Johnson, you have any comments on
I'd
this?
also like to go into executive, I'm fine with everybody joining.
I
Director
think
Roberts?
personnel matters should always be in executive.
Okay,
So this is just, if I don't mind saying, this is a review.
that's,
To me, it's personal.
Yeah, but we normally review our contractors not in executive.
and
Yeah, we don't.
And to real quick, I think, and I will say my piece, I mean, honestly, given what we had to do last week in public, I would rather take this in public, not because I'm having concerns about you, Lisa, or the staff from Crossroads, but I feel like that we owe it to folks to have it where they can see. You know, I'll go with the will of the board on the vote on this, but, I will say, I will say, comment on something Sandy said about the reviews. I feel like they only reviewed Lisa a lot. And I know we had some issues with Trinity, but I feel like some of their reviews have been an effort by the board to help the citizens of the district get to know their contractors and have a discussion what they work on. So I think it's been good to do these on a regular basis, to have them come and discuss with us. But, I concur, we probably need to stop doing this on a less than annual basis. So, given I've said my piece, Sean, are there any little considerations with having someone who's not privileged come to exec as far as things that are said?
I think given the nature of this, we're fine, yeah.
Okay, then let's have a vote. All those in favor of going to executive session?
Aye.
All right, I take it that, which way did you go, Director Logan?
Aye.
Nay. All right.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Aye, yes.
Yes, you're yes, I'm saying I'm nay, sorry. All those in favor, I was gonna say I'm an A. So with a 4-1 vote, we will go into executive session, so, thank you all very much. Calling us back to order, back on agenda item, 5, review of general manager. We came out of it, then we're in executive session. We discussed items with our attorney, no decisions were made, and so now we are back in public meeting. So I am going to allow the members to go around the table, starting with Director Logan, finishing with Director Roberts, to give any further comments to make. Once that is done, I will entertain motions from the members. We will dispose of those through votes, and then we'll move on with this agenda item.
Okay, so, I heard, the review, and I do not have any, concerns with our general manager. I think she has done an outstanding job. Nobody is perfect, and I think she has learned from some areas that we've asked her to improve upon. It is, unfortunately, it's publicly known as a difficult board, or a difficult neighborhood. Different boards been difficult, I know, we've been challenging. I hope we can continue to grow and learn and do better. I think even this last 2 years, this board has done an amazing job. And I hope we continue to go that way. So I continue to support Lisa. One matter that did come up, and it was about the security cameras. And I don't necessarily want to speak for Director Young, but I do understand if that is our subcommittee and we're kind of responsible for bringing this, this contract up and making recommendations to the board, that we need to understand what is out there. Should we ever have access to it? No, and I don't think, again, I don't want to speak for you, Director Young, but I don't think that's what you're asking for. I think you just wanted to kind of get the hard data and make sure it was best fit for purpose. So I do agree with him that we need to get that information, but I also agree with you, Director Shoemaker, that we don't have to sit in a room with our GM. We don't even have to sit on Zoom with our GM. And actually, if you're on a subcommittee with me, Director Young, then you and I need to be able to work together. We need to be able to answer emails, and we need to be able to be professional. And that same thing, Cecilia, you and I, you know, Shoemaker, I mean, all of us. We're freaking adults. We got elected. Let's do our job. Okay, Director Young.
No comments.
Director Johnson,
No additional comments.
Director Roberts.
No additional comments.
Are there any motions on the floor at this point from anybody on the board?
Motion to adjourn.
No, we have one more item.
Oh.
We have similar, so I may ask you on item 5, are there any motions or members on item 5? If there are no items on, if no one's making motions on item 5, we're gonna close this item. Okay. The last item we have for tonight to deal with is, well, next to last, is item 4, review all subcommittee meetings, protocols, and assignments. Director Logan, who I think you took this on, asked to pin this. I
Yeah.
do wanna make one quick comment before you make your comment though.
Okay.
I think, given this conversations about TDI and waste, normally services is Director Roberts and I. Given the short timeline to discuss some of the fee issues, I want to put this out for the rest of the board. Should we make a special subcommittee to discuss fees that will exist only prior to the next meeting on the 11th, whatever the next meeting is, to discuss with TDI that has one of the budget subcommittee members and one of us from services as special for park fee
TDS.
and TDS fee, yes, TDS fee, separate from the regular service work, only because the reason I'm suggesting this is that, you know, Director Roberts and I have worked a lot on services, but we've not worked on the budget. So I think it might be beneficial, but I will throw it out to the members. If no one thinks that's a worthwhile idea, that's fine, but if there is thought, there would be thought to perhaps having one of us sit with one of y'all on a special committee about fees prior to the 11th.
I think that's a great idea, and if you wanna do it, Johnson, I'm happy with that, if you
I'm
have time.
traveling next week.
Then I'm
I'll be
happy.
there remotely, but I'll be traveling next week, so it might be better if it's you.
I'm happy to do it, I've got the time, I also used to sit on TDS with Cecilia many years ago, so I have a little bit of understanding of that, but yeah, I think that's a great suggestion.
Director Roberts, do you have a preference on that?
Like, just for.
Like making a subcommittee on fees,
Yeah,
and
just
one
do
of
it
us
ad
are.
hoc, you and I are the ad hoc, is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I was saying that we should have one of them on the
Oh,
budget,
okay.
sit with one of us on the ad hoc about fees, just because
Yeah.
you and I have not been privy to all the budget discussions. And so I'm fine with volunteering to do, but I wanted to discuss it with the board
I would like to stay on it.
on the ad hoc.
Yeah, because I.
Is that okay, Director Logan?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine, and I wanna involve Sean and Jamar
Okay.
and Lisa with that.
I just, and like I said, that, just thinking that, you know, that way, you can have that, we can have access to that same subcommittee to all the budget discussion with all the prior services discussion.
So who is it's gonna be, you and I?
You, me,
And then, so I'm gonna make a motion, right, so I'm gonna ask for a motion to create an ad hoc committee, that will meet prior to the meeting on September 11th, composed of
Second.
Director Logan and Director Roberts to discuss,
I'll motion.
fees of TDS and parks. And then we'll go from there,
a
so,
second,
all right.
Johnson's.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so that carries, we've got a special
So-
subcommittee.
My agenda item was specific to, and talk to Sean about this, number one, sitting on the subcommittee is not a right, it's a privilege. Do I have everybody's attention?
Yeah, listen, I'm just making note of what we just did.
Okay,
So-
it's a privilege, you don't automatically get to sit on the subcommittee, and you don't have to have two people on a subcommittee, you could just have one person on a subcommittee. We do have an election coming up, so the board's gonna change a little bit, and so I want us to look at subcommittees then. And, so I think we can kind of hold that, but I want us all to really think about if we wanna stay on subcommittees and what subcommittees, and how you wanna work with, whether it's Boggs or, you know, another vendor or volunteers in the neighborhood, because we're a reflection, you know, this entire community, so let's put that on hold, but
Okay.
that's the reason for
So
that.
we'll leave that item pending, we've got that special subcommittee, Sean, did you get the right motion or anything on that, or we can catch up after? Item 6, future board meetings agenda items, I don't think there's anything to discuss at this point on that.
Packet.
So I think at this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
That would be mine.
I'll second.
Second, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,